We've got multiple crime families, top-end podcast hosts, illegal card-playing games, and selling inside information paired with rigging games. The NBA has a huge problem. Betting looks like it is an open secret amongst the league. At least I was in on it today. Got lucky that I was fed some inside info that Terry Rozier was leaving in the first or second quarter, depending on the game flow and live lines, so that this under would hit. And I'm a firm believer that if there is a network of gambling going on within the league involving coaches and players, that would suggest it being an open secret. And the reason I feel comfortable saying that is because of how much the internet has contributed to this investigation or spoken about this kind of out there. And I'll get to it. There's tweets dating back years ago. There's, guys who are Discord mods who have deleted their Twitter accounts, who tweeted forever ago about these things that are going to happen from, major all-star level players getting caught up in gambling stuff. There's guys like Carmelo Anthony sitting courtside with relatives of guys that are selling inside information gambling as well. Essentially, when Adam Silver took over and had a chance to blow all the gambling stuff out of the water and send a message to crime families and players, this will not be accepted or tolerated. It seems like he chose not to. We're going to dig into the report, why I think that, and why I think this spells bad news and bad PR for the considerable future. And the timing of it, too, being right around opening week of the NBA is horrible for the NBA, but this is their mess and Adam Silver's mess that is only going to get worse over the next, 3 to 4 months. So today, we are digging into the reporting of probably story of the year and then the internet lure behind it with the NBA's gambling problem centered around Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups.
Absolutely right, Rich. The NBA at some point is going to have to explain why Terry Rozier was allowed to keep playing. And I just want to point something out. The sportsbooks caught the irregular betting on Terry Rozier the day it happened, the morning it happened.
No threes, and they cover. All right, so now the Wizards covered. The plus 11.5. Let's look in on Gary.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No, I enjoy it. It's a hobby. If I had a problem, I'd be starving. I'd be hawking this watch. My championship rings, I would sell my house. I would do this.
The NBA, the more that videos like this at least look ominous, the point of the hat, the no, and the locked eye contact and the shaking the head yes, feels really, really ominous. Like no reaction to making eye contact with him. Just locked from what it looks like. Since at least 2019, a group of co-conspirators organized illegal high-stakes poker games across the United States designed to defraud wealthy players out of their money. Now, if the sportsbooks did their investigation and caught this, the NBA and Adam Silver are idiots for even pretending like it didn't exist, because that's exactly what happened. Just real quick, I'm just going through reporting. It's all allegedly. So a big story broke today. The Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier story, I guess, in the NBA. It's two prominent figures in basketball, one more prominent than the other, both tied up in this gambling ring with mafia ties and high-stakes poker games. And this has been something that the NBA has been aware of and kind of been in NBA circles for a little while now. And it's so fascinating because, I think NBA Twitter is the most open secret Twitter of all of the sports Twitter. I feel like in college football, there's a lot of open secrets, and they don't really feel kind of like backbreaking to the integrity of the game. I feel like in NBA Twitter, there's a lot of really open secrets to the point where Ron and I have talked several times about these things kind of being there. And Pablo Torre actually did an investigation where he dug into some of the NBA gambling stuff. And he did it in large part based off of tweets that were kind of predicting the future. Now, I know that not everybody that is a part of this channel, is big into NBA. So I'm going to go recount the story, kind of offer my research and some of my opinions on what really is the first potentially league crippling gambling story since legalized internet gambling has kind of touched most of the United States. I'm a believer that this was always going to be the risk that you run with sports and gambling kind of being in lockstep and then things being so easily accessible. And unfortunately, one of the sports leagues had to go through this first. 2 of the 3 major leagues went through this before the biggest one, the NFL, that we know of. But those are the 2 sports. It's probably easier to bet on your own props. So let's get into it. I want to first do the story that has multiple contributors. A lot of these stories from today, because it is such a massive story, the FBI in a major league, whenever that happens, like, you're going to get very, very sizable stories, and they need manpower because this probably is the largest sports story potentially of the year, and it is a lot of off-the-court stuff, and this is, again, 2 to 3 years in the making. Now, we'll just read it together. On Thursday, Portland Trail Blazers coach Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, and former NBA player and coach Damon Jones were indicted in a pair of sweeping federal investigations into illegal sports betting and rigged poker games. That's important right there. What are these? Okay, here's what our ESPN reporters know about the allegations and what's next for the people involved and what this might mean for the NBA. They thought, Doug Greenberg, thought they both, let me try again. Let me get it right. Though they both involve current and former NBA players, the FBI made clear in its news conference that these are 2 separate cases, albeit with some overlap. The first involves betting on NBA games using insider information from players and coaches, and the second involves rigging high-stakes, mafia-associated poker games against high rollers after enticing them to play with former NBA players, including Jones and Billups. There is, it's funny that they said that these are 2 separate cases, which they are, but I think the overlap directly links them in regards to why NBA players and coaches would risk everything, their entire careers, for these bets that aren't a fraction of what they made as players. And NBA players, unlike NFL players and MLB players, have the most cash out of the major 3 leagues, in large part to do with size of the TV deal in relationship to the salary cap floor and how many players each team has to pay. What is the FBI alleging happened in the sports betting case? Brian Windhorst. The NBA players have taken themselves out of games allegedly to win under prop bets, and that people with inside knowledge have leaked information about player availability before it was made public. According to the case filings, between December 2022 and March 2024, so over the course of 2 years, a group of co-conspirators placed bets on at least 7 NBA games using non-public information. Those games involved the Charlotte Hornets, the Orlando Magic, the Trail Blazers, the Lakers, and the Raptors. The big thing in this is the Lakers, considering kind of the brand they are. Rozier is accused of sharing inside information, removing himself early from at least 1 game for the benefit of gamblers, and profiting from those bets, according to the indictment. It's crazy because when you see this, and I'm obviously interjecting as I go, a lot of this, I'm sure, is stuff that the FBI has solid, concrete evidence. Now, obviously, deciding motive is hard, and you got to do that, but the fact that they have for sure, I think, these 2 or 3 things suggests to me that there's a bunch that will never actually get fully confirmed by the FBI because they didn't need that for the case to fall through. They just want to get the main things, the things that they know they'll win without a doubt in court. Jones, who was unofficially a part of Ham's Lakers coaching staff in 2022 and 2023, so within the window that the investigation took place, allegedly sold inside information about players' availability to bettors. For example, I'm Chris Drew. I'm questionable. Coaches saying I'm going to play. I can't play. He was selling that information to high people, I'm sure, connected with these groups before it became clear that I wasn't going to play. So that's important. Although Billups is not named in the sports betting indictment, it describes a co-conspirator. Although Billups is not named in the sports betting indictment, it describes a co-conspirator whose playing and coaching careers match his. That co-conspirator allegedly told a bettor that the Trailblazers were tanking and that several players would miss a March 2023 game. So this is where I think the overlap is, and we're going to get to it. But my belief is these high-profile poker games that we've known for a while are the worst open secret, that's been going on for a while, that people from that were getting in too deep and then tied in with this mafia throwing games and selling information kind of thing, which could be deemed as harmless if you're Chauncey Billups. You're just sharing kind of what you already know, or be deemed as like rigging. And I'm curious to kind of get more into the rigging side of things. Billups' attorney, Chris Haywood, said in a statement to ESPN that his client would fight the charges. To believe that Chauncey Billups did what the federal government is accusing him of is to believe that he would risk his Hall of Fame legacy, his reputation, and his freedom. He would not jeopardize those things for anything, let alone a card game. Billups has never and would never gamble on basketball games, provide insider information, or sacrifice the trust of his team and the league. Now, that's where I'm at. I think that what's going to end up happening when this whole thing gets told later on is going to be a lot about what was going on at these card games that presented an element of pressure to fix or give out inside information in regards to the NBA. Because I always think about Jontay Porter. And Jontay Porter, they talk about getting tied up with the wrong people. For those who don't know, that is the NBA player who was betting on his unders a year ago and got caught. And during his whole process, the amount of money bet on these games was so small that they could find tied to him. But for me, it became clear there was something bigger here in terms of other people on offshore accounts betting on things and getting paid. Kind of maybe like he was feeling outside pressure to place these bets, or you're just addicted to it to a crazy point. Okay, here's the next segment. I'm jumping ahead. Didn't we already know about this? Windhorse. Yes, Jontay Porter, formerly of the Toronto Raptors, pleaded guilty for his involvement last year. The NBA investigated Rozier in 2023 after suspicious betting on his prop bet in a game between the Hornets and the Pelicans, and one of the games included in the indictment. And then he said, the NBA said they did not find a violation of NBA rules. When asked about the investigation on Thursday, league officials said the NBA does not have the same investigative powers as law enforcement, but wouldn't comment on what the investigation included. This, to me, is where the NBA absolutely made an enormous mistake. The NBA, I believe, for a long time has operated under the belief, under the umbrella of, we are going to discipline our players and we're going to keep it tight because we don't want the league to look bad with the public suspensions. We don't want them to. Now, that was Windhorst and the NBA talking about, we didn't find anything in the investigation. Now, Windhorst, who is a very respected journalist from Akron as well, had this to say, and I want to play it and make sure it's playing. This is Brian Windhorst kind of talking about the NBA, who said the NBA said they did an investigation and didn't find anything. Windhorst, who's really plugged in and a very good journalist, had this to say on that.
Absolutely right, Rich. The NBA at some point is going to have to explain why Terry Rozier was allowed to keep playing. And I just want to point something out. Mm-hmm. The sportsbooks caught the irregular betting on Terry Rozier the day it happened, the morning it happened, when all of a sudden there was hundreds of thousands of dollars coming in on Terry Rozier unders for a relatively meaningless game in March, mm-hmm. involving the Charlotte Hornets. The sportsbooks caught it. They told the NBA right away. And guess what? The NBA, Rozier didn't play the rest of the season, and he had faked the injury, so it wasn't because of the injury. The NBA pulled him. They pulled Jontay Porter too. They flagged Jontay Porter and pulled Jontay Porter. The NBA's measures, mm-hmm. their protection measures, the sportsbooks protection measures triggered this. They caught it. Uh-huh. The issue, I think, is Jontay Porter. They caught Absolutely right, Rich.
So that's a snippet. And that says a lot to me because he is saying kind of what was another worst kept secret. He's saying the NBA knew about this and opted to allow Terry to continue to play after, in putting their own suspension forward in terms of what they thought punishment was, which makes me feel like they maybe thought that this would not get elevated to a larger level. Now, if the sportsbooks did their investigation and caught this, the NBA and Adam Silver are idiots for even pretending like it didn't exist, because that's exactly what happened. Terry Rozier, stat-wise, Basketball Reference, missed 20 games that year due to injury that Windhorst is saying was essentially him being pulled. Terry Rozier was an all-star level player too, kind of involved in this. And the NBA, I think, thought it would go away, and that is operating with arrogance. And for that, Adam Silver should absolutely be ashamed. On March 2023, Rozier, a member of the Charlotte Hornets, told Deniro Laster, a childhood friend, that he planned to remove himself from Charlotte's game against the New Orleans Pelicans in the first quarter because of a supposed injury. According to the indictment, Laster allegedly sold this information to two bettors for $100,000 a pop. Again, only a fraction of what Terry Rozier was making, which to me, this screams fast cash, get my homies paid, or additional betting, right? Or additional dollars. That's what it sounds like to me. If you take a look at Terry Rozier's contract, those being sold for $100,000, we're talking about a guy who in his career, this top number right here, in his career made over $160 million, and yet is tied up in this betting scandal where the information that he was told to somebody to sell to two other people was sold for $100,000. His current deal is a 4-year, $96 million deal. Those bettors, along with their associates and network of proxy bettor, wagered on Rozier's prop unders, which according to the indictment, ESPN previously reported, those bettors, along with their associates and their network of proxy bettors, wagered on Rozier's prop bets and his unders, according to the indictment. Rozier left the game after just 9 minutes with 5 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. He paid for Laster to travel to Philadelphia to collect the proceeds from the scheme, according to the indictment. Laster then drove to Rozier's home in Charlotte to count the money with him. Rozier's attorney, Jim Trusty of I4Law, said in a statement that his client is not a gambler and looks forward to winning this fight. This tells me they have him absolutely dead to rights, though. I know that's the lawyer's job, but this feels like they have him absolutely dead to rights. This is fat. This is, again, part of the internal failure from the NBA. My biggest belief is the internal failure from the NBA is thinking that a soft, small suspension, instead of being banned for life, like baseball did with Pete Rose and now probably Clase and Ortiz, I think is their biggest mistake, because it makes them like they're soft on betting, and I'm sure pissed off the sports books that caught this and felt like the NBA didn't do an adequate job of addressing what I believe is a widespread problem in the NBA, which I will get to in a little bit. How does the NBA explain letting Rozier play over the last 2 years? The question could create much of the fallout from the bombshell allegations. The NBA process on the investigation, which certainly will be put under the microscope, it could also have an effect on the NBA's ongoing investigation into Malik Beasley, because the NBA will now need to look or be increasingly tough and thorough as it proceeds. Beasley was not named in the indictments, but is under federal investigation and will be subject to more scrutiny in the wake of this. The fact that the NBA is letting these guys play during a federal investigation, I think, is a huge, huge misstep from Adam Silver, who acts like he, I guess, is invincible and the players are too. It's awful. How does all this involve Billups and Jones? Jones is a co-conspirator. Jones and a co-conspirator matching Billups' description are accused of telling bettors about the availability of star players before the information was known to the public and subsequently Vegas in 2023 and in 2024. The players are not named in the indictment, but they match the descriptions of Damian Lillard, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Honestly, 3 of the league's biggest stars, which is nuts. None of those players, though, have been accused of wrongdoing. In an interesting twist, the second game in which Jones is accused of leaking the information, January 15, 2024, against the Oklahoma City Thunder, James and Davis played despite being on the injury report. The bet on the Thunder lost, and the co-conspirators asked Jones for their money back. And according to the indictment, Jones insisted that the intel was good. So it felt like, almost like, there was some stuff going on, players listed on the injury report, and maybe some potential, going fishing, essentially, in all this. It's a setup. LeBron and AD and them, people in the NBA knew this was happening, and this feels like a classic setup kind of thing. Because within that brotherhood, if someone says they're not going to play, they're probably not going to play. Tells me again that not only was this an open secret, it was an open secret, and a lot of players were kind of aware of it. And we're going to get into kind of what players could know soon. Why is this inside information? The gap between when a player's availability is decided and when it's announced has for decades been a target of gamblers trying to get inside information. As coaches, Billups and Jones would know the team's plans for their players before they were reported to the league. For generations, NBA teams have at times hidden the availability of players on game days, especially stars, for strategic reasons. Sometimes players are truly game-time decisions, and sometimes they are called game-time decisions, even if that decision has already been made. It is from this area that this case seems to stem, and what the NBA must further address, the reports. The big question is going to be, what has the NBA done about this rise in gambling-related scandals? In the wake of gambling's widespread legalization, the NBA has taken steps to improve the transparency. This includes more detailed injury reports that are updated throughout the day and fines for teams that do not follow protocol. But as this indictment shows, the league might have to, re-examine and further tighten its existing protocols. The other part of the story, who is Damon Jones? Jones was a journeyman NBA player, but is best known for his time playing alongside LeBron for 3 seasons in Cleveland from 2005 to 2008, including a member of the 2007 NBA Finals team, the Cavs team. That was horrible. After his career ended, Jones spent time coaching with both the Cavaliers G League affiliate, the Charge, and with the Cavs during James' second stint with the franchise from 14 to 18, and was an unofficial part of the former Lakers staff with Darvin Ham 2022-2023. That's the overlap. What about LeBron James? Is he impacted in this at all? It seems like there's no wrongdoing other than just kind of being close and being a subject of interest for the proxy bettors in the network. On February 9th, 2023, Jones texted co-conspirators to bet against the Lakers in their game against the Milwaukee Bucks because player 3, as he's identified in the filings, would not be playing the night because of injury, though player 3 was not named in the indictment. The details, including the relationship with Jones, matched those of LeBron James. James has not been accused of any wrongdoing, and a source close to him told ESPN's Dave McMenamin that he was unaware of Jones' gambling activity, which I wonder if that's going to come back to bite him. Also, just speaking of Damon Jones, I think got souped on him by J.R. Smith, so just a little sub-story on all this. Now, the game in question, the Cavs-Magic's game. A Magic's player told a friend, whom the indictment does not name but describes at times an NBA player, non-public information about a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers in April 2023. I want to play these highlights, but I know that the channel will get hit if I do. The Cavs had previously announced that they were resting their starters for that game, and the Magic became heavy favorites. The friend then shared this information with a co-conspirator who bet on the Cavs to cover the spread. When the Magic later benched their starters in a common late season tactic, the Cavs wanted a blowout. The Magic player was not named in the indictment or accused of any wrongdoing. Ugh. Now, where does the poker case play into all this? Since at least 2019, a group of co-conspirators organized illegal high-stakes poker games across the United States designed to defraud wealthy players out of their money, totaling, what they know of, a total of $7.15 million, according to the indictment. These games were supported by 4 of the 5 crime families that make up the Italian-American mafia, otherwise known as La Cosa Nostra, Gambino, Lucchese, Giovese, and Banano. Billups and Jones, who were known as face cards in the scheme, allegedly used their celebrity to lure victims into playing high-stakes poker games that were actually rigged. According to the indictment, cheating teams set up an elaborate scheme involving technology that would alert the co-conspirator players to the cards on the table while allowing them to get an edge on the victims. The organizers allegedly used X-ray tables, glasses that enabled the showing of marked cards, and technology that allowed a remote member of the team to let others know the cards in play, according to the indictment. So just outright cheating, and you are multi-millionaire coaches and players. Besides the victims, everyone involved in the game, including Billups and Jones, as well as the dealers, were involved in the scheme and received a cut of the victims' losses. We're just stealing. The victims of the poker games were not identified in the indictment. I'm curious to know who they are. Once the victims lost, the mafia used extortion and violence to make sure they paid their debts, according to the indictment. I do wonder if some of the victims are other NBA players, and if that is the case, if that's what kind of opened the door and kind of crossed the two schemes together. How are they connected? Greenberg. Though these are 2 separate cases, 3 people are charged in both. Jones allegedly sold insider information to the co-conspirators in the NBA betting case and served as a face card of the poker games. We're talking about someone who's connected with the NBA being a major part in this crime scheme. So to assume that the crimes committed were limited to this is not something that I will subscribe to. I think this is a huge deal, and we're talking about, again, other millionaires that were involved in these card games. I'm saying, dude. Eric Ernest and Shane Hennon allegedly bet on NBA games using non-public information and were members of the cheating teams in the poker scheme, according to the case filings. Hennon also provided some of the technology used to cheat in games, according to the indictment. What charges do these 2 face? Billups and Rozier have both been indicted on charges of wire fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering conspiracy. According to records, each count carries no more than 20 years in prison, according to the Assistant U.S. Attorney, Diane Hu. They both appeared in court on Thursday and were released from custody under certain conditions. A Florida judge said Rozier would be released after putting up his home on bond and surrendering his passport. Billups also had to turn over his passport and is required to secure a substantial bond. How does this connect to Jontay Porter's case? Porter previously pleaded guilty to wire fraud in connection with the case and is awaiting his sentencing. At Thursday's news conference, U.S. Attorney Joseph Nakula said that the co-conspirators threatened Porter into cooperating in order to clear previous gambling debts. That's the connection, man. You think about it. They're saying that Billups used his celebrity and his profile to get other wealthy individuals to play in these poker games. what wealthy individuals does Chauncey Billups have the most connection and access to? Other former players and other current players. It's like the easiest like crime family thing that we've seen. That's my thought process. Is this connected to the Gilbert Arenas case? Another guy got picked up about 2 months ago. It didn't get talked about enough, but got picked up also with connections to all this. In July, former NBA star Gilbert Arenas was arrested in connection with his illegal poker games staged at his house in Encino, California. Though there are some similarities between that case and the indictments, Arenas' scheme involved the Israeli mafia and does not appear to be directly related to the more recent case. Again, we're talking about a lot of high-level poker games. A lot of them. Is this connected to the Malik Beasley case? It is not clear. In June, ESPN reported that Malik Beasley was under federal investigation on allegations of gambling related to NBA games and prop bets. 2 months later, Beasley's attorney said he was no longer the target of the investigation. The NBA has since launched its own investigation into Beasley. Pablo Torre also launched a really good investigation into Malik Beasley, and this is where I started to get really into this. What about the ongoing college basketball investigation? ESPN previously reported that some of the same gambling accounts that bet on Rozier and Porter props also bet on college games. This is where it gets really scary because the avenue into the college game has happened before, and it was a mess. It was a disaster. And I think college kids are easier to take advantage of now that they've got tons of money as well than NBA players are. Sources told ESPN that the FBI has been interviewing college athletes, and they believe indictments are forthcoming. Again, it's going to cross over into the college game, and when it does, be ready. Like, this is just the top layer of this onion that could get really, really bad because of how easily accessible college sports are. From Tim. From an encore perspective, the biggest ramifications is Billups removed from the sideline for one of the NBA's more intriguing young teams this year. Portland, which is also ran in the Western Conference for the past few years, but was hoping to make the playoff push this season. Traded for Drew Holiday this offseason, signed Sharp and Kamara to extensions last week. Billups in general, manager Joe Cronin received contract extensions earlier this year as well. This is less important to me. Tiago Splitter is going to be serving as the head coach too, so shout out Tiago Splitter. Now, how will Rozier's contract impact the Heat? Rozier signed a 4-year, $96.3 million contract with Charlotte on August 24th, 2021, and then was traded to Miami January 23, 2024. He has 1 year and $26.6 million left on a $24.9 million, which is guaranteed. He's owed 24 payments of over $1 million starting November 15th and concluding November 1st, 2026, including this season. Rozier has a career earnings of over $160 million. Adam Silver can blow up the contract basically if deemed necessary. He'll be expelled, and obviously that'll be removed. Now, this is where I think, we're in the process of reviewing the federal indictments announced today. The NBA sent a statement Thursday. We take these allegations with the utmost seriousness, and the integrity of our game remains our top priority. 100% not true. 100% not true. The NBA's never operated like that, and I'm curious to see if someone is going to hold the media's feet to the fire, or if the media is going to hold the NBA's feet to the fire with how they completely mishandled this whole thing, which we will get to, don't worry. In reaction to the Porter case, the NBA asked its partner sportsbook to stop allowing bettors to wager on the under props involving players on two-way contracts like Porter was at the time. On Tuesday, during an appearance on the Pat McAfee Show, Silver again called for more federal regulation of sports betting and urged sportsbooks to pull back some of the prop bets in order to avoid potential manipulation. It's kind of where I'm at, too. I think that, that's going to, I know people don't want to hear it. I know people want to be like hate DeWine or whatever, but I think the eventual outcome of this, the eventual outcome is going to be for prop bets to go away. Why do federal authorities consider the sports books to be the victims in this? The federal investigation considers sports books to be the victim in the NBA case because the bets placed by the co-conspirators were considered to be fraudulent due to the non-public nature of insider information, according to the indictment. Dude, when I kept placing those Devin Brown Heisman bets, I got my account flagged a bunch of times. Then I wasn't allowed to bet on it at one point because I had placed like 8 or 9 Devin Brown Heisman bets, which I really believe, dude. Which, whatever. I don't want to get into it, but. DraftKings and FanDuel are both official gambling partners of the NBA, as well as the American Gaming Association. Released a statement to ESPN regarding the indictments, generally lauding regulated online sports betting for its ability to detect potential illegal betting activity while condemning the illegal market that has no such protections. That's the thing. That's what I think Adam Silver messed up at, because he chose to allow these people to continue without being placed on leave, where the MLB said, no, we're going to go on leave, we're going to investigate it, we'll go from there. He didn't choose to do that, and then wants to come out and say, well, the betting companies need to not allow for betting on unders for certain players. So yeah, that's what we got there. Now, I do want to dig into some kind of stuff, to dig into the whole, idea that this whole thing was an open secret. This whole thing has been an open secret. Everybody knows that NBA has gambling problems. It's so bad.
Let's watch my championship ring.
Do you have a gambling problem?
This goes back a while. Oh, what is this? What is this picking up? All right. Yeah, this goes back a while. Look at this. This is crazy. Somebody dug this up from 1993. Because there's a lot of speculation that Michael Jordan was gambling and the NBA made him step down, serve a 2-year suspension.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No, I enjoy it. It's a hobby. If I had a problem, I'd be starving. I'd be hawking this watch. My championship rings, I would sell my house. I would do this. My wife had left me, or she'd be starving, or my kids would be starving. I do not have a problem. I enjoy gambling. Soon, whenever I walk away from this game, I think that's the only thing that people are going to say was a bad thing about Michael Jordan.
Could soon be after this year?
Could be.
Do you have a gambling problem?
No, I enjoy it. It's a hobby.
It's wild because he was the first real high stakes gambler, and it was, again, just a horribly kept secret. Now I do want to get into this.
No.
Nick Wright did that's incorrect, but also they did specify the families that were tied to the Chauncey Billups case. I'm curious if he gets into that or if he recorded this before seeing. They tied specific crime families under the mafia tag, at least in the ESPN article. I know he's with Volume. I am interested in the Chauncey Billups thing because, crime families, the ones that got named in that ESPN report, I'm sure there is, and also there's Israeli mafias, the Armenian mafias, there's not just Italian mafias, and that's why it was detailed the crime families. I think that they're pretty insulated, and lawyers-wise, they have now a vested interest in Chauncey Billups not flipping on anybody. And I think that provides a different element of presented danger or presented opportunity or presented insulation to keep it kind of where it is and have him go down on the sword. So I'm wondering kind of where Chauncey Billups sits in all this, if he will keep his mouth shut and make the investigation, I think, harder for the feds. Okay, so he said that he read an ABC article, but I believe in this ESPN article, it details the mafia and the names. Let me look. Okay, so this one got mentioned before. Yeah. So since at least 2019, a group of co-conspirators organized illegal high-stakes poker games across the United States to defraud wealthy players out of their money, totaling $7.15 million, according to the indictment. These games were supported by 4 of the 5 crime families that make up the Italian-American mafia, otherwise known as the La Cosa Nostra, Gambino, Lucchese, Giovanni's, and Banana, I don't know how to say it, crime family. So that was also listed. And then if you go further into this article in particular, which I think is the most well spelled out article, the Israeli mafia is titled right here. So Nick Wright might be tripping. Might be, because it was definitely.
So I initially was
a great job, and I think he didn't want to make the tie-in at the end, but there definitely is some shady business, potential crime families that are, I think, get mentioned at the end. I don't want to fact check. I don't want to spread that without. I think it's a lot bigger than that, and I think kind of falling into that hole, something I did before. But I think there's a lot more going on than just guys trying to get their boys some bread. I think that does happen in some form or fashion. Obviously, like, instead of having to pay you 20 bands out of my own pocket, telling you what I'm about to do or not about to do, having you bet it under, I think is kind of what I believed at first the Clase and Ortiz thing was. But I think with the involvement of all these prominent crime families, it is likely much bigger than that. And as someone who loves sports the way Nick Wright does, I'm not sure if he's saying this to maybe insulate himself from the unfortunate truth that games are being rigged because too much money's at stake, because he does want to keep romanticizing about sports. It's like, as a kid, yeah, maybe Santa's not real, but there is some like Christmas magic here. This is what I feel like he could be doing. And he's too smart, I think, to fully ignore. I wonder, I don't want to say it, but high profile guys with connection to like Damon Jones, Chauncey Billups, is there a world where some reporters are also in on these games, and are only the ones that make enough money to like be involved in these circles, the guys that feel like stars? The same exact face I made. Like, Blood, what are you about to say here? Like, what are you about to do here? Because we're talking about all these illegal card games with some high-profile, big-money people that we know you have and you're connected to. Are you about to... Nick Wright, it feels like he lost the plot here. I'm going to give him a couple extra minutes, and then I'm going to get to one of the other videos that I want to kind of dissect and talk about.
And drop it in this little box here, and at the end of the night, the house has made $2,000.
Right.
That's the line that makes poker games legal or illegal. Is the house taking a cut? Okay? It's as simple as that. So when I was on with Levitard last week talking about that huge card game I was going to, that was a bunch of guys who've been playing with each other forever.
He's addressing internal criticism instead of actually talking about the story at hand. Now, another video that I want to play
all those sons
that I think is important and interesting and kind of piqued my interest was this. Stephen A. Smith.
Remember when he said, fire all those sons of you-know-what? So offensive to the NFL, even Jerry Jones took a knee. Remember all the protests and all the things that were being said and how you had to get him out of office? Bring up the WNBA. Why? Magnificent, marvelous, athletic.
Actually, I don't want to touch this. I think it's too toxic. I think it's foolish. I think it's foolish and insane. And now we've got stuff like this popping up. People have long wondered what this guy was signaling to KD. And now, because some internet theories have been right about some of the gambling stuff that's going on, videos like this are going to be everywhere. People believe that this was somebody involved in it making signals to KD, and it looks like from this angle that KD responds to the signaling.
This shit red. Look at this shit. He just gave him a signal. He's like, nah, I can't even do it. Like,
and then the shake in the head, yeah.
Can't even do it. Shit red.
That's a real ominous.
Shit red.
That's a real ominous moment. The no, the locked eye contact, and the shaking the head, yeah. Now, I hope this is nothing. But the more we hear in regards to the NBA, the more that videos like this at least look ominous. The point of the hat, the no. And the locked eye contact and the shaking the head, yes, feels really, really ominous. Like no reaction to making eye contact with him. Just locked from what it looks like. Now maybe it's explainable. Maybe he's got something on his hat, but the reaction from him, like the jaw, I think, being clenched, freaks me out a little bit. The NBA has a widespread gambling problem, and a lot of people knew about it, and yet it feels like none of it ever got addressed.
13 points. Harry.
I've seen this video circulating for a while now, and now it's bigger today because what did Gary Payton, what were they doing?
Payton is gambling. The Warriors are up now by 13 points. All is good, but what's with the little schoolgirl chatter going on right here? Why on earth would we...
And this is where I say, like, if stuff like this is real, if this is actually what's happening here, and all of them are acknowledged, then it is almost an open secret in the NBA.
We be covering the mouth up 12 with 5 seconds. Oh, because the spread was 11.5. Look at this. He even says they might have to shoot again. Oh my God. And there's only one reason, Steph Curry, you cover your face up 12, because you're gambling, okay? So here we go. Second free throw, going to put him up 14 points, and all we have to pray for is no threes. No threes, and they cover. All right, so now the Wizards covered. The plus 11.5. Let's look in on Gary.
Again, the Kevin Durant thing, the angle, the eye contact, maybe it's nothing, whatever. This gets a little bit hard to explain. And, like, I could pull the wool over my own eyes, like, ignore it. But it feels, again, like gambling in the NBA is the worst kept open secret. Worst kept.
Bro, your team just won by 11, and you're freaking out. Gary Payton, oh my God.
In the NBA, unlike the other sports, I think is the easiest gambling and manipulation-wise. I mean, even this. This is, again, deep in NBA Twitter, January 30th. If Terry Rozier is being investigated, Chauncey Billups needs to be investigated as well. Deny, I don't know how to say his last name, has played 35, 39, 34, and 38 minutes in 5 of his last 6 games. The other one, he played 26, which was also conveniently against the Magic. Billups is clearly deciding to bet the under on him versus Orlando. Again, we're now talking about over and over again an NBA coincidence hitting. This one. At least I was in on it today. Got lucky that I was fed some inside info that Terry Rozier was leaving in the first or second quarter, depending on the game flow and live lines, so that this under would hit. This is from March 23rd, 2023. The same exact date that gets named in the indictment. This is right after Adam Schur said, oh man, books pulled Rozier lines, then he got hurt mid-game. Greg Elberg is about to have the time of his life. Again, at least I was in on it today. We're talking about an open secret. And it's not the rigging of games. It's the rigging of individual lines because there is a rampant gambling problem. I think gambling became cool in the NBA a while ago. And part of it is because the best basketball player of all time is a notorious gambler that we already described. It's going to end up being one of the sadder situations, I guess, moving forward. So I'll continue to monitor this and kind of give my thoughts on it. But this whole thing, again, is a bad open secret that the NBA essentially allowed by not coming down with an iron fist and banning players permanently, to the point where it went from potentially like a taboo thing that, like, okay, maybe we indulge in, to players in the league seemingly knowing about it, at least enough so that there's a network of players involved in player gambling, and nobody blowing the whistle to get the whole thing blown up. That's an NBA culture problem, a huge culture problem. And if it needs to get, to fix it, it needs to be frowned upon to the point where the integrity of the league, players in the league feel a pride in the product instead of a pride in the money and the gambling. Period. So I'll continue to kind of cover this story. It is a fascinating story, and I want to do more, but it is kind of late right now, and I want to get this video out tonight. But again, the NBA has a huge problem. There you go. Practice.
Hello, hello.
What do you think I talk like on the mic?
You talk like.
What do you think I talk about?
Oh, what do you think you're talking about?
I
Well,
just want to talk right here.
like you talk about sports, I guess. But like you're usually debating, like you're debating on sports, right? Something like that.
Not really.
Ah, dang it.
I kind of just like give my thoughts on sports,
Ah, yes.
and then I do a lot of research and like do sports stories.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The name of this channel is Dead Air Sports. You need to get your family members in on this. You gotta get your friends in on this, and you gotta get them to subscribe. And if you unsubscribe, make sure to subscribe again.
No, so that's not how you do team building, right? You do team building by being like, hey, look, like, thank you for giving me the opportunity and watching my video. I'd appreciate it if you'd like and subscribe.
Okay.
So do that. Try that.
And thank you for watching my video. I'd appreciate if you liked and subscribe. Thank you very much.
Because every person that subscribes is like a supporter of me or of Ron or of Q or of Tyler. It's just like it's like an honor almost to get a subscriber. It's not like something that's like should be just passed out. Because it means they like listening to me talk.
Thank you for taking the chance to watch our videos and supporting Christopher and all of his friends. If you haven't already, it would be an honor if you subscribed.
That's awesome. Good job. You can sign off. Say have a good night.
Have a good night. Goodbye.